Okay, Mishlei 24, 28 through 29, last day of Morning Mishlei for the season. Stay tuned for the survey about the possibility of no of I don't think that's gonna work out. Of Summer's here. Yeah, thank you. That was what the season's called. Yeah. Okay. Altihi eid chinam b're'echa v'hafitisa bisfasecha. Don't be a chinam aid, a free, pointless, baseless, unwarranted witness. We don't really know what those are. With against or with or for your fellow, and seduce him with your lips. Al tomar kasher asali kin eselo. Ashiv laish kafa alo. Don't say, as he did to me, so will I do to him. I shall pay back the man according to his act. So our questions were manifold. What is the scenario? That's the main question. Who are the parties? Who is the would-be witness? Who's the person he's testifying about? Who is hearing this testimony? What is their history? Like what happened, right? So clearly, kasher asa li kin asa lo, something happened in the past. What is the audience of this pasuk trying to do? Like, what is he trying to accomplish? And then the other major question about the scenario is 29 positive or negative? Am I like getting him back for what he did to me, or am I paying him back for what he did for me? Okay, then we have, what is the meaning of eid chinam? Is the testimony itself false or defective in some way, or is it true or bad in some other way? What also is included in the category of edus here? Like, are we in the strict like court setting, or is this like, just saying what you saw? 3, what does hifitisa mean, to seduce? What is its relationship with the first half? With the first half of the first pasuk, how do we understand this based on the stance we take about 29? In other words, if you are paying him back like with punishment, so then you can see why you'd want to like lure him into a false sense of security or something. But if you're like doing something good for him, seduction is just a weird like what place does that even have here? 4, isn't this obvious? You shouldn't be a bad kind of aid, whatever the kind of testimony this is, you shouldn't be a bad aid for someone. If 29 is negative, then don't we already have the issur of lo sikom? Don't take revenge. 5, is the lashon of lahashiv laish kafalo, the lashon of lahashiv laish kafalo in this way is the way we describe the divine mida keneged mida, right? God is meshiv laish kafalo. What do we make of the fact that it uses that phrase, and considering the fact that this is the way that God operates, isn't this a good thing? 6, what is the relationship between the two psukim? If 29 is positive, then are these two opposites? Either way, why is he paying him back specifically through this device of eid chinam upitois v'sayim? Why not some other way? 7, why is 29 framed as don't say as opposed to don't do? Right? It should say don't pay the guy back, for his action. We shouldn't say don't say that you're going to do this. 8, how is the amira in 29? How does the amira in 29 qualify the entire act that our audience is contemplating doing? And then 9, why not? Why shouldn't you do this? And 10, who's the audience? Are these individuals a specific Mishlei archetype? All right, that was a lot of questions. Okay, so we're not going to go through all the ideas from yesterday, but Isaac's idea was about trying to artificially induce Mishlei consequences. Okay, right? So like this guy has some consequences that are due him, and you're just trying to hasten it, bring it about through your own agency. And it's saying don't do that because you are going to become needlessly involved in like a conflict with this person, or like subject yourself to other consequences. Also, I was thinking about this. Oh, sorry. And then the rationalization is a person saying, I'm just being like God. I'm giving this guy what he deserves. Liars deserve to be exposed. I'm just exposing him. Or cheaters deserve to be caught. I'm just catching him. We said that there is a place for that when you are I forgot how we define it exactly. Do you remember when you
we're not eid chinam.
When you're on eid chinam, right? Right. In other words, like you witness a murder, right? And like don't be like, oh well, I am not going to bring about this guy's downfall because I'll just let God take care of it. No, if you actually witness something that you need to testify about, then you should do that. So that line exactly is might be difficult. There might be some gray cases, but I think there is something else also, which is when you try to one of the downsides of artificial consequences is that they're artificial, they're not natural. And artificiality is often misguided. If you're trying to design in other words, in the natural world, in terms of hashgacha klalos, let's say, there are natural consequences that are dictated by Ratzon Hashem. like he designed nature in a way and human psychology in a way that it's going to take its course. If you try to like orchestrate that, like many times because of our God fantasy of like controlling all things and like thinking that we have a full picture, it misfires really badly, like, so I think that's another reason to like not try to like orchestrate these consequences, because it can get like really, you could easily overstep your bounds in terms of like thinking that you're doing a really good job of like designing the best consequence lesson plan, but really like, God is the best one at doing that. Okay, that was Isaac's idea. Anything to add to this? Yeah.
Just to clarify, this is talking about a case where someone has a certain defect or
Yeah.
course of bad action.
Right.
So you're making up an example of it to testify against.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you're either making it up or you're bringing it to light when it wouldn't have naturally come to light. Like let's do one more example of this, and let's try to make it a more tame example, not like murder. Well, see, if someone is actually
Littering.
Yeah, that's the kind of example I'm looking for. I'll give you an example of this. Like, I feel like there are definitely cases in like with politicians or people like in positions of power where like there's cases where people actually abuse the people who they're working under or like have actual inappropriate conduct. But then I feel like there are cases where people see signs of the middos which can lead to those instances of conduct, like let's say like a guy who has actually I no longer remember the cases, but like, so I'm not going to say specific examples, but like let's say people who are who haven't actually done anything inappropriate with women, but like someone says like, oh, he's like a he has a like insert your whatever your level of like male, improper male like attitude towards women, and like people will like insinuate things, so look, like this guy, if what they're saying is true, this guy probably is going to do something like bad or whatever, or like there's going to be some actual misconduct. And like when you have that, now you have an actual case where there are going to be actual consequences. But like you just don't like the way that the guy like like this, I feel like a lot of these cases with the politicians are like, these are people from like the 40s or 50s or whatever, and like, yeah.
Like the example from recently, I'm thinking was Brett Kavanaugh, when everyone said like, oh, he drank in college.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's a good example. Right. Is people, if a guy did something like that and it was, he's, in a different life situation, then that might be a different thing. I mean, that's why I mean that there are these like borderline cases where people are eager to convict this person of a crime, and so they'll report on someone in a way that is like that they haven't actually done anything yet. It's an eid chinam. They haven't actually done a crime, and that's a really dangerous line to draw when you're like, what was the movie Minority Report, where people are like, where you're in a society where like people are being arrested for crimes that they're going to commit, like in the future, because they have like these prognosticators, who like, it's like a very, very, that's playing God. Like that's, like that's in the realm of God. Like, yeah. But I
like testifying against character instead of individual.
Yeah, if you had to put it in categorical terms, I think that's a good way to say it. Yeah. Now, again, even that is very, there are times when like, let's say you have a person, who's torturing small animals, and like, you're like, I wonder if they're going to become a serial killer, like maybe there, like when you have like like, this is not to say you shouldn't take precautions, let's, but I think there are people who actually try to like treat signs that someone is like of the character where they're going to like do something, and they try to like actually like, hasten those consequences. And that's, I think, the danger zone. Yeah.
This is kind of a different category of eid chinam.
Yeah.
I think it's still true. I'm just pointing out, I feel like it's almost a different mistake than trying to induce consequences for something that person actually did.
So you're saying that the eid chinam is so which one is the eid chinam according to your pshat?
I'm just saying there's two different, this is a totally different category.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about.
Can you just say the two categories? I just want to make sure I
Okay,
understand.
One is, like, that's funny about like, about someone's characters if they're like actually doing something.
Right.
Something like that. And a separate thing is this person actually did something that they should be getting consequences for.
Yeah,
But you're just trying to hasten those consequences.
right. Yeah, right. I do have an example of this. I think I know the facts on this example. Didn't Louis C.K. get canceled for doing something that was like very, very creepy and like, but like there was no actual like criminal act involved?
Mhm.
I think, yeah.
Not a criminal act.
No, I think didn't it was consensual, right? It was consensual, right? But like he got the same treatment as like all the people who like actually like, it's like that might be like an example of this. Yeah. Dicey area, dangerous age we're living in. Okay, all right. Next, Sean had a completely different approach, taking the puzzle as positive, where the person did something good for you, and you want to reward him. So you testify in a not entirely true way about this person in a something some good quality that this person has. I was using the example of like endorsing someone's business or like qualifications, and you think you're doing him a favor by like seducing the person who you're testing to and saying, oh, this is a great guy, like you can trust him, you rely on it, that's bad for several reasons. Number one, for just in terms of a personal exposure risk scenario, you're attaching your own name to this person when you don't really know whether it's gonna play out as you said. So you're exposing yourself to risk. You might be endangering the relationship because if you support this guy, and let's say, for example, this person is trying out for something that they're not qualified for, and you like endorse them, and then they don't get the position, then they hold it against you because like you put in why do you like lead me to believe that like I was going to succeed in this. And then also you're not actually doing something good for the person. You're setting something up good that might be done, but you feel like you're discharging your obligation by like almost like a credit debt type of way, and like and you're paying that off, as opposed to, let's say, like actually like continuing to develop the relationship. You're saying, oh, I paid that one off, and that could also lead to like a miscalibration of how the relationship is going to go. So I think that's a good shot. I don't think there's anything to add to that. I think that's good. Okay. Ezra said that. Okay, this one was confusing to me.
Okay, the first pasuk is talking about someone who comes in, gives testimony for someone else's benefit.
Okay.
And then 29 is saying don't like try to like reciprocate that was given.
Okay, right. And this one was in closer to the Sean category of you're trying to do something good for the person.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
For the Sean category, but for two different audiences.
Yeah, two different audiences.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd like to talk that one out.
Sure.
I feel like really the mistake is in 29.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think maybe the reason why it's phrased this way in 28 for this is that to highlight that that's a mistake to be testifying falsely about someone in order to like benefit them. But I think really the mistake is if a person does that for you, then you now feel pressure to like that you need to do something for this guy, like to reciprocate when he needs it. And I think it's a very strong pull.
Mm-hmm.
And so it needs to say, don't say, oh, he did something nice for me, so I'm going to do something nice for him. Because then you're going to be doing the same thing.
And he's
Right.
gonna end up in the situation.
Right. Yeah. So so the consequence there is the perpetuation of this cycle to a certain extent.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
also you testify falsely.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Ariel had a thing. You had half an approach,
Yeah.
right? So it's talking to someone who gives unwarranted testimony to someone about their behavior. Okay, this is not prompted by necessity, but by some issue that the witness himself has. In other words, like I come up to you and I like point out some flaw in you that didn't affect me and that didn't need to be pointed out or whatever, and like just to, and what's going to happen is, since this is really coming from my issues, but you're going to perceive it as though like it's something that like organically emerged from the situation that you need to like you're going to worry, oh, did I upset someone? Like, am I like failing my job? All this other stuff. It's a miscommunication essentially, and that's going to lead to all the problems that come from the miscommunications.
What is the seduction that's happening here?
The seduction. So I would not use the word seduction here. I would say fool. You're fooling the person with your lips, like getting them to think that this is a bigger issue or a more pressing issue than it actually is,
So then who's it warning? The person that's receiving this?
It's warning the person who is tempted to give this testimony, and saying that you're going to be putting this person into a situation where like they are is it
almost a case where someone's projecting though, in which case they're not necessarily aware that they're projecting,
right? But I think though that this is the practical advice here is to get yourself to ask, why am I telling this person this thing? Like, is this edus chinam? And I think the temptation here is like, everyone feels very responsible suddenly when it comes to like helping everyone be engaged in their own self-improvement, but like there's a hierarchy of like, a person does an avera. Okay. That's one category. A person like, offends or insults someone. That's another category. Everyone has flaws, so like for you to go and just like step into someone's flaws and say, well, you know what, in order to be a better person, like you need to do, like it shouldn't all be in one category. And I think people convince themselves that something is like higher up on the necessity tochacha realm than it actually is, but the thing that we didn't explain is the 29, right? Is the if this is true, altomor kasher. Oh, so okay, right? Kasher asali kin esalo ashiv ish kafolo. Okay, so I'm gonna just take a stab at this here. Okay, is I do think that like sometimes you get into situations like this. Like I can imagine that in very close, like equal relationship situations, whether it's like a marriage or like a business partnership or whatever, or coworkers, like, or friends, you can get into a situation where like someone gives you like tochacha, or like points out some sort of flaw and it's warranted, and there's always gonna be a certain ego sting, so like you look for a place where like you can then like point it out to them, and you justify it, say you could justify it as like, sometimes it's justified in like overt vengeance terms of like, oh, I'm gonna like rebuke him. Sometimes it's like, oh, like I'm gonna be a helpful person too, but really you're just doing it because your ego hurts, and like, there is so it's justified in reciprocity terms, either for bad or for good. And then maybe that's why it's stated in a neutral way, and it's saying like, this should be, okay, here, okay, this is good. This is a sign that like, maybe this is edus chinam. In other words, like, why are you suddenly going and pointing this out to the person now? Like, think back, are you stinging from something that they pointed out to you, that they corrected you, and like now you're going and like saying it to them? Maybe that shows that it's not really warranted and you're doing it like to in reciprocity, in misguided reciprocity. Okay, that's good idea, yeah. Because it's not warranted, but you're making it seem into a bigger, like it's a thing that I need to talk to you, but I need to point this out. Like this is going to be a big thing that needs to be done. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yes.
I have an example.
Yeah. Pause. Okay. In the interest of time, and because Chizkiyahu is not here to interpret his notes, we're gonna skip over Chizkiyahu's idea, even though it was good yesterday. I want to do Rabbeinu Yonah. I want to do Ralbag because they're very different. Okay. Rabbeinu Yonah has a nice little discourse here. Don't get intimidated by the length because 29 is very short. He like front loads it into 28. So number one, we're talking about testifying on an avera, okay, that you saw your friend do. Chinam shelo l'tzorach, unwarranted. Kagon she'ata ba l'ha'id alav yichidi, or based or ineffective maybe. Let's see, like you come to testify about him as a single witness. Okay, so meaning it's not going to hold up in a court of law. Which nifsal b'kach la'edus.
The other guy won't be puzzled.
The other guy won't be puzzled. The
guy testifying against.
Oh, okay. In other words, right. In other words, your edus, you're coming in. Your edus is not going to have any nafkamina in terms of this guy standing.
It's
Yeah.
not gonna be unlawful for Russia.
Right. Okay. Correct. V'nimsa she'ein kavanasacha l'zulasi l'hoti shem ra. Turns out your kavana is only to spread a bad name for this guy. I feel like we danced around this type of interpretation earlier yesterday. Amru zal al inyan kazeh tuvia chata v'zigud menagid. Okay, I had to look this one up. You know this?
No, I saw this poll yesterday.
Oh,
I was talking
nice.
about.
Okay, so this is Psachim Kufyu Gimel Amud Beis. The Gemara comments, this is like an incident. Oh, sorry, let me back up for 1 second here. The Gemara cites a statement. I'm just going to read the English. The Holy One, blessed is He, loves 3 people: one who does not get angry, one who does not get drunk, and one who is forgiving. Those aren't the only 3, by the way. Just whenever you see statements like this, like, you know,
I
yeah.
don't know if forgiving is the right translation. Misha Eno.
Okay, so yeah, I'll read it. Misha Eno Kois, Umisha Eno Mishtakar, Umisha Eno Ma'amid Al Midosav. That's a weird, I've never seen that.
That translation. And then-
Ma'amid Al Midosav.
Does that mean like you keep to your values?
Is that like Eno Ma'amid Al Midosav might be a synonym for Ma'avir Al Midosav?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, right. It's just that's the usual one that I would expect. Shlosha Kadosh Baruch Hu Sonan. God hates 3 people. Hamadaber Echad B'Pev Echad B'Lev. Someone who is doesn't have tamimus, as we say in our Wednesday night Tehillim Shir, is not, you know, says one thing and thinks or feels another. Someone who knows testimony about his friend and doesn't testify about him. Okay, I see where this is going. Oh, maybe now I see. Okay, someone who sees a matter of erva in his friend, means some sexual violation, but testifies against him yichidi, right, alone, as a lone witness. Kihad tovia chata va'asa yizigud. That's a great name. L'chode va'asid be kamid Rav Papa. So this is like a case where I think we say Tuvia. I don't know, Tuvia, whatever. Tuvia sinned, and then Zigud came and testified about him by himself to Rav Papa. Nagde l'zigud. So they whipped Zigud. Okay, they lashed Zigud. Amar le, they said Tuvia chata v'Zigud mingid. Tuvia testified, and Zigud gets whipped. Amar le, in, yes. Tichsiv lo yakum eid echad ba'ish. A single witness should not arise against a person. You testified alone against him. Shame ra ba'alma ka mafka be. You're just being mostly shemra on him, right? So that is like what we said yesterday, where like, you know, if you're going to make I mean, again, obviously in our court of law is a different type of system than in halakha, but there's going to be a point like this in court of law also, where you're just like, you know, creating bad reputations about things that are like unsubstantiatable, you know.
Frivolous lawsuits.
Yeah, frivolous lawsuits, right? Is that it tarnishes the reputation of the person who gets sued, even though none of the charges stick, you know.
And so far as you're trying to damage the guy, I mean, it would seem like you are successful to an extent by doing that. Even if you don't like
Oh yeah, you're definitely successful in damaging the guy, right? And that's why this has to tell you not to do it, because you're actually causing real harm, right? Yeah. Okay. Va'afal pisha amru ki rashai hatalmid legalos al avera shira'u enav biad chavero bisman hatalmid neman l'rabba kishnayim. So even though Chazal said that it's permissible for a talmid to reveal an avera that he saw with his own eyes, that his friend did, at a time when the talmid is trustworthy to his Rav, like 2 witnesses. Now, I don't even know what the halachas with that are practically, so let's just not touch that. Okay, so apparently there is a case where like you treat one guy as 2 in terms of witnessing. Lo huter zos b'zman sheyire talmid chacham shechata. Kamosh amru zal kasehu b'layla. This is not permitted when he sees a talmid chacham who sinned, as it says kasehu kalayla. Okay, so this is another Gemara I didn't know, which is in Moed Katan Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, which says. Amar Rav Huna Ba'usha hiskinu av beistin shasarach im menadin oso ella omer lo he kavid v'sheip of his secha. Oh, we still do this nowadays. Okay, fine. So they an av beistin who went bad, right? Meaning who he did something that was like bad. We don't ostracize him in meaning publicly, but we tell him maintain your kavod and stay at home, right? This is like putting someone on paid leave. What was it?
Yeah, house arrest.
Yeah, house arrest. Yeah. But I think this is like let's say someone like institutions do this all the time, where they won't fire the person, they'll just like put them on paid leave, and then until like their contract runs out, keeping their dignity. Chazer v'sarach, he goes and does something like stinky again. Menadin also mipnei chilul Hashem. Then we ostracize him because of chilul Hashem. Very interesting balance there, right? First offense, you try to preserve the dignity. Second offense, then you concern with chilul Hashem. I feel like this is the whole sugya, probably to look into. Like, why don't we care about chilul Hashem the first time around? All right. Upliga, or why don't we treat the kavod of the Av Beis Din as why do we treat it like maybe that is what we're caring about? Maybe the degradation to the Av Beis Din is a chilul Hashem, but then if he's behaving in a degrading, whatever. Upliga Reish Lakish, this argues against Reish Lakish. The Amar Reish Lakish, Talmid Chacham Shesarach Im Menadin Elsa B'Var Hesia. He says the Talmid Chacham who goes bad, who does something bad, we don't ostracize him in public. Shneimar the kashalta hayom. I gotta read this with the nikudos. The kashalta hayom, the kashal gam navi imacha laila, the damisi imecha. I don't know what that means. You stumbled during the day, and you stumble, and a navi also stumbled with you at night. Vidamisi imecha. I don't know what this means. Okay, but the drasha though is kasei b'layla, right? He should be concealed like the night. So that's saying that you should not reveal it. And Rabbeinu Yonah seems to be taking that as a maskana here, or at least a principle. Yeah.
What should not be revealed? Istanbul or the Nabi?
I don't know in the context, but here he's saying if you see a Talmid Chacham sin, then Reish Lakish is telling you should not you shouldn't reveal it. You should cover it like night. The
pasuk was including a navi in this.
Yeah. Could be. I get paranoid whenever I see the word Navi in the Navi, because so many times it's talking about like a false Navi or a bad leader, or like I don't know. Yeah, I mean I think it's important to look at the job, but I just don't want to spend time on it right now. The af b'kerev of libo ein lahar halav. You shouldn't even harbor suspicion about him in your heart. Okay, this one I would predicted what he was going to say. This is a very common one. Kamosha amru chazal. If Talmid Chacham sins at night, then don't have suspicion about him the next day because he definitely did tshuva. Okay, halavai Talmid Chachamim were like that, but that's the ideal. Since he has a chazaka as being yirei and he was worried about his chataim, and he is misabel whenever his yitzer takes hold of him. V'imhu Russia, and if he's a Russia, v'im b'nei adam. Okay, now here we flip. Okay, if he's a Russia, and people don't recognize that he's a Russia, and he is posing as a tzaddik among them. Not only should you not be silent about his actions in the ears of people who are tznuim, I don't know what he's about tznuim here. It's a mitzvah to publicize his actions, to make them known to the rabbim. This is kind of touching on your point, Zach's question that we asked on Friday about like when you should publicize people's time. Again, don't take this practically, like there are a lot of halachas about this, but we're taking this from a Mishlaic standpoint. There's huge harm that could come about from honoring Rishayim. Because they will lead many astray from the good path. They'll lower the honor of tzaddikim, and they will bring close the chatayim. I think these are sinners. And there's a chilul Hashem in honoring them. Some people will know that they're bad, like they'll see that they have bad actions. And they'll say, so they'll say, oh, there's no societal kavod consequence in terms of averos. Like this Russia has this huge position of honor. And his stature will not diminish in their eyes because of his bad actions. And sins don't have the ability to lower people. In other words, you can sin and still be prominent. This is what we were taught. We should publicize people who are. I think chanefim here does not mean flatterers. I think it means hypocrites. We should publicize hypocrites because of chilul Hashem. Again, a lot of halachas about this. Everyone's a hypocrite. Okay, you can't just go and publicize someone who's a hypocrite. I think the Chofetz Chaim has a lot of stuff about this also. But it's talking about a hypocrite like a Russia who's let's say the guy who's preaching against theft and embezzling from his organization or whatever. V'im yesh la'ish chaver balaveros. Okay, now here's where we get to our pasuk, and this is this is all introduction. If a person has a friend who is a bal averos, umasav kamasehu, and his averos are like his own averos. So like you're on par with this guy, you're both bali averos. Okay. This is a strange audience for Mishle to talk to. Lo nave lo lefarsim avanosab. It's not proper for you to publicize your fellow avarians avonos. Ach im yisparsimu al yidei acherim nave lo leganoso. But if they are publicized by others, it is proper for him to degrade him. So I think I'm reading this right. Okay, correct me if you think I'm reading it wrong. Let me just make sure I get it right. Like I have a friend who is a bal averos like me. I shouldn't go expose him. But if other people are exposing him, then it is proper for me to like talk about his averos and degrade them the way, even though I have this similar averos. Yeah,
Is not proper or pleasant?
it's used in proper.
Okay.
It literally means beautiful. Like ze keliv an vehu, I think is like the lashon. Yeah. Okay. Ne'amar alti aid chinam bere'acha. This is the case that it means don't be an unwarranted witness against your fellow. So it's using re'acha ba'averos, right? Right, like your fellow sinner. It's interesting. Vihifitisa. Oh, now he gets into some grammar here, which I think I'm just going to skim through and get the upshot. Humi bale hakefel. I think that means it's one of these things that is using the tough twice, even though it's not part of the shoresh. Vehim shnei mishkalim hapesi v'hapitus. Okay, this can mean like someone who's like naive, or pitos, I think is like 41.
The biggest footnote thing I've ever seen.
I know. Yeah. We're not gonna read it. We're gonna.
It's a bits.
Yeah, like petitim, like crumbles. Yeah. Okay. The Indian pusa machet. It means publicizing the chet. Okay, that's the upshot. Halbanas pnei adam utchinaso. Yeah, utchinasam. So he's not learning it as petty like I don't think he's learning it here as seduction. He's saying and crumble him, which means to make his face, to embarrass him and grind him. I mean, like I don't know what the exact emotional tlina here is. Kasher kasu upnei anim titachenu. Okay, so I guess it does use that. Like you cause the faces of the anim to crumble, to be ground up. Bitachin kihu murkab min hapatit mibinin hadagush umin hapatit min habinin hanosaf lainin kitase zos kazos poteb sfasecha b'tovad musarecha. Okay, so it's another lashon of crumbling. Sorry. The Indian, the idea is kitase kazos. When you do this, potes fasecha. Your lips are poteh, which we have to look up that pasuk again. The tovad musarecha, and your musar will be lost. Okay, so where does it take us for pasuk 22? 40. Sorry, 2019. Okay, so we've theoretically done this. 2019. We need to see how Rabbeinu Yonah takes it though. If we can get this to load. Okay, 2019. As you can look ahead and like tell me if there's anything I need to know. 2019.
It's about refuse.
Okay, Golasod Holech Rachel, one who reveals a secret goes as a gossip monger. Ulfotes fasav lotis arav, and with one who is potes fasav, do not mingle. So Rabbeinu Yonah says, and you can spot me here. Tell me if your version says anything different because yours is better. In another place it says the reverse. One who goes gossip mongering reveals a secret. Someone who goes as a gossip monger, al taftich lo sodecha, don't entrust him with your secret. Ki achri asher lo yishmor l'shono min rechilus. Since he doesn't guard his tongue from gossiping, lo yishmerenu mechasof sodecha, he will not guard against revealing your secret. The ata yomar kimishu golaso. Now it's saying someone who reveals a secret. Someone who's a secret revealer, don't speak about people's faults in front of him. And the altomar ki af al pishu golasod mipnishi dame benavsho she'ein nezek laish begilui aval min harachilus izaher. Okay, don't think that even though this guy reveals secrets, he's not going to violate ruchilus because that's an open isser. Right? That's not true. Since he can't control himself to keep secrets, he's not going to control himself to go gossiping. So don't join or mingle with someone who is posif sign, which means she'enu medaktik b'dvarav, someone who's not exact with his words. V'lo yaktim lahem machshava. He doesn't precede them with thought. I think we translate this as blabbermouth. I think litzrov kabor sigem, to refine like a crucible from impurities. Since this guy, his speech is prone to just saying whatever occurs to him. So he doesn't give us an interpretation of the word pote, but I think is like someone whose mouth is like open in a unrestrained way. So what do we get here in our case? He says potes vasav. Where are we? Oh yeah. So if you do this, if you testify against this guy preemptively, right, in an unwarranted way, you're being posted for the tovad musaraka. That's the thing I don't know. Your musar will be lost. What does that mean? Right. So practically he's telling us, you have a virus just like this guy. Don't preemptively condemn this guy, for his averos. If people are condemning him, then you can speak up as well, but don't do this preemptively. I mean, my inclination is to think, there's all these statements in Chazal about how you should not rebuke someone if you yourself partake of those flaws, because it's going to be ineffective. People are going to say, well, who are you to talk? That was the Bimei Shavot HaShoftin that people said to the judges, like, who are you to judge me? Like, you have all these averos also, yeah.
Yeah, so I was gonna say something similar, that I think it's just gonna backfire and might just result in your flaws getting exposed and nothing with that person,
So then how does it change if everyone has already like exposed this guy's flaws? Because then maybe it's not like you are rebuking him, you're just like endorsing the other rebuke. Yeah, David?
I also think in the context, I would think there's a lot here. We're saying like two people saying they both like smoke too much. Like,
Yeah.
can you like cut down how much they're
Right.
like if one of them like they're both pulling out cigarettes right now, like we should like you smoke too much. And, like having a smoke together,
Right.
like honestly it doesn't mean much.
Right.
But there's like definitely like we're smoking too much.
Yeah.
That definitely does a lot. And I think especially then you actually might be like the most effective person there, where someone who's like you're both down in ditches together.
Yeah.
Like you're actually together this versus like someone else who's
Okay. So what I like about the example you're giving is that it really fits the words of the Rebbeinu. Tovad musarach. Your musar is just gonna be like lost. Like it's just gonna be ineffective. Like, all right. So let's see what he does with the 20. Yeah.
And maybe also, once everyone's reviewing him, then even the person who has someone actually saying what you're doing is bad, then it's like, let's say like everyone's telling you smoke too much, and like even the other smoker is telling you that you smoke too much, then at that point, and then that's a bunch of,
Okay, that's good. That's true. Meaning then it's like a coach game. But I would also say that like the reason why it's ineffective in the case that David mentioned is the guy could just dismiss your musar, but if other people are saying it and he dismisses his fellow smoker's musar, the fellow smoker would be like, yeah, but like all these other people are telling you the same thing. Like, it's clearly not just I'm telling you this, like just, yeah, fine, ignore me. But like, so like, yeah. So that I'm combining that with what Isaac is saying. Okay, now let's look at 29, then we'll put it all together. Because I don't know what he's saying here. 29, very short. Altomar kasher asalikin eselo ashik ish kafalo gam im avar chavirecha al hamusar. Even if your friend transgresses the musar. So he is talking about tochacha here. It's funny how he like delays the tochacha until the very end of the Rebbeinu period. He didn't say at the outer. This is talking to a mochiach. Ufirsim eschataecha, and he publicized your chataim. Okay. Al tasa lokain. Don't do this to him. V'kasher amru zal bishvil shota echad she'asa shelo kahogen lo nevad emunasenu. So this is like this is out of context. The Rabbi Kiva story about Avodah Zarah, saying like just because one idiot, we should lose our trustworthiness. So in other words, like this, the case here. So this is an afterthought. I don't think this is part of the essential idea. This is saying like, okay, so it's telling you, okay, let's use the smoking example. You and your friend both smoke. You shouldn't go and rebuke your friend for smoking if you yourself smoke. But even if he did this to you and told everyone that you're a smoker, you still shouldn't do this to him. Okay, because, and it's funny because this is like almost like not a two wrongs don't make a right, but it's a similar thing. Like like just because he did this to you, that doesn't change the phenomenon that Mishlei is pointing out, that like your words are still not going to be heeded. Like, like your words still aren't going to be heeded. Like, so don't do this in a retaliatory way. Why does Mishlei have to devote a whole pasuk to like addressing this this temptation or this havmina? That I don't know. Yeah. So could we just summarize the Rabbeinu Yonah's chiddush here? It's funny. I mean, he goes through that whole hakdama about like a Talmid Chacham sinning and like aid being an aid chinam. This is one of these things where like with certain mafarshim, I would know that if he's saying this, it's critical to understanding the idea. But with Rabbeinu Yonah, you never know, is he just using this as a springboard for like talking about important things, and that's not really relevant to the pshat, and the pshat he gave over in that last column,
Yeah, would you think that like it wouldn't work with them?
Well, that's the weird thing, right? I feel like it would work with a Talmid Chacham, right? Like of anyone, But the thing that concerns me,
It's not. It's more about people may get associated with the rebuke versus the source. Meaning like if the rebuke is like difficult, they may just ignore the source of it.
right. But the thing is, what concerns me is not so much that, but the fact that he is talking about don't publicize this about the Talmid Chacham because he's done tshuva, and he's saying, yeah, but we're talking about a guy who is not. You can't assume that you're doing tshuva. Like, so why does he spend so much time talking about someone who the pasuk is not talking about?
I thought it was because he will do tshuva.
I think
Yeah, he will do tshuva, right? But the balaveros though that the pasuk is talking to is not going to do, or it's not that he's not going to do tshuva. It's that he's not muksak to do tshuva.
I
Yeah.
think he's explaining different cases.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, well, because it could, the pasuk could apply to. So he's saying
It could what?
it could apply to several different cases.
Yeah.
And it's saying with Talmid Chacham, it's not necessary. With the balaveros, then it is necessary to and then.
I mean, he's learning the reacha and the pasuk as a reacha balaveros, right? Or am I misreading that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would be lacking if you didn't have the whole thing about the Talmid Chacham and the Eidos in the first part of the Rabbeinu Yonah? What would be lacking in our understanding of this idea?
I'm tempted to say that he's like walking through the development of the idea.
So then what would be lacking in that stage of the first stages of the development?
Because I think React could mean just another person.
Okay, so he's saying this in order to show how like we're not talking about Reacha who's a Talmid Chacham.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd accept that. Yeah. All right. So then the main idea though still is that so if you and a friend have a common flaw, then be aware, even if your motives are good, like in 28 your motives are good, that you want to rebuke this person, be aware that it's not going to be effective if you partake of that flaw, because he's just going to dismiss it. But I'm not saying you should try to orchestrate this, but if you get in a situation where like this flaw is publicly highlighted, for example, let's say like he does something and like it becomes known, that he did this flaw. So then that's the time that if you really want to help your friend, then you can chime in and say like, okay, look, I realize we both have this problem, but like you got like revealed, you got exposed. So like, you should work on that. And then you could like leverage that to your advantage. And then you should also be aware of the retaliatory emotion that we said from the previous shot about like where Ariel's idea came in, right? I think Ariel is Rabbeinu Yonah is giving my explanation for 29 and Ariel's idea of like oh, he did this, he called me out, I'm gonna call him out. We don't have time to go over Rabag, but I just want to tell you about Rabag's idea. Is he seems to be I didn't figure it all out, but he's talking about when you find someone who is wrong and you are tempted to use like false evidence to try to disprove them on the justification that like they're already wrong. So like you fabricate stuff in order to like disprove them,
So I thought you meant about Isaac's shut.
Yeah, I think we showed that you could be talking about Eid Sheker. I still want to say Eid Chinam is a smoother read if it's just unwarranted. But yeah, he seems to be taking it as like it's Sheker. Yeah. Okay, very interesting pasuk. Good year of morning Mishlei. Bli neder, God willing, next year to continue. Yeah. Bli neder every day.